Everyone, I'd like to welcome you to the September 27, 2016 meeting of the McMinnville City Council. At this time, I'd like to remind everybody that tonight's meeting is being recorded for broadcast on MCM, McMinnville Community Media Television, on both Frontier and on Comcast, and it's also being streamed by KLYC. So that being said, we ask that if you have a cell phone that you please silent it now, and if you need to text, receive, or make a text or receive or make a call, that you please go out into the lobby and take your call or make your call out there. So that being said, what I'll do is I'll ask Council President Jeffries to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Kevin. This is a time on our agenda the council likes to reserve for anybody that would like to speak to the council on anything that is not on our agenda tonight. So if you have an issue you'd like to speak to the council about and you don't see it on our agenda, we'd ask you to come forward. There are some things, before anybody comes forward, there are some things that I need to go over. If topics, of course, already on the agenda, we ask you to wait till that agenda item. If the city is in a matter of litigation or potential matter of litigation, we will not be able to take your comments tonight. And if it's a quasi-judicial land use matter, or if the council or staff knows it's a matter scheduled for a public hearing sometime in the future, we will not be able to take your comments tonight. So that being said, with those limitations, would anybody like to speak to the council on anything? Jared, come on forward again, sign in and
I appreciate it. I will. Thank you. My name is Jared Miller, 947 Southeast Ford. I appreciate it. Let me speak tonight. As most of you are aware, I'm running for mayor this year. I've been working door to door. I've had the luxury in the short amount of time. This evening, your minutes will be spoken from the first time that I spoke here. That I see that June 14 was the first night that I actually introduced myself, was when I had a scruff beard still, and I was running around the street pretty much until about midnight working with some of the Mac City pastors and seeing what was going on with some of the crime rates prior with Detective Sergeant's report that I had heard. Since then, I've been able to discuss with most committees some of the junctures that they work for, such as the zero waste. I got the luxury of meeting them and working with some of the intricate details that they work with. The watershed, landscape renewal, the skate park. I went down there and took some pictures in Joe Dancer Park with some of the fathers and some of the mothers that work down there. They have their own little neighborhood watches. There was also another neighborhood watch that was discussed with the some of the abandoned homes that were around here in the neighborhood over in the 3rd Ward south of here. I noticed that this month was Provoking Hope Suicide Prevention Awareness, and I had discussed some things with NAMI and met some of those junctures, as well as I got some good chances to speak with some of the familiar faces that I see here that I've known in the past as well. The commissioner that's here tonight that may speak, he's been very helpful, and I want to thank all of the commissioners for the ML County. They've been discussing anything with me that I've asked, and they've been very thorough. As well as I've gone to the Planning Commission and discussed with Heather on the sidelines of anything that was available, and she'd instructed me to go towards Mike or Larry over at the Planning Department, which, Martha, thank you for helping me get into some of those outlets, which we've spoken before as well. And a couple of days ago, I got the luxury of meeting some of the members of the school board, as well as seeing Martha and Rick in one of their meetings with the MAC Club, as well with the Kiwanis. So I appreciate all of that opportunity to be able to be a part of any of those things. And I hope that during this year's election, I can continue to do that. And I do hope that there are some more opportunities for citizens, as they may not be here this evening. They have given me interests and points of view that I hope to continue over in the section that I have been as the Ward 3, or better known Precinct 19, for the voters. And I would just like to finish with part of my campaign this year will be to push voters just to vote, considering there are a lot of people that do not vote as much as they should, as well as the clerks have a little less than precinct workers that try to make sure that people are voting. If you change your address, change your job, don't vote during one primary or another election, you could be liable not to get a voter's registration card for this voter. So again, I urge everyone to push voting this year any way they can, just to see what kind of numbers we can get and to help out with this election, as minute as we may feel about it. So I appreciate your time, and thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Jared. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak to the council on anything that is not on our agenda tonight or does not meet the following or the preceding requirements I wrote? So come on up, and again, Cole, if you'd sign in, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. I just had a couple of issues I wanted to point. My name is Cole Riston, and I am the owner of Northwest Advantage, a marijuana dispensary on Adams and 8th. I had some concerns about the city ordinance 5000 municipal code 1764040 that specifies commercial, retail, recreational marijuana businesses may not be located within 1,000 feet of another state licensed commercial, recreational, retail business. That's pretty clear to me. I actually had this ordinance that I wanted to share with you along with another piece of paper. Can I hand that out to you?
Why don't you hand it to Rose, hand it to the Rose over there.
The issue I have with that is once a land use form is approved for use, then that ordinance prohibits another business of that type being able to operate within 1,000 feet of that approved facility. And in this case, on the corner of 8th and Adams, my land use form was approved by the planning office in the end of July, the first week of August. By the planning office approving my land use form, then basically a 1,000-foot boundary would have been drawn around my facility in accordance with the city's ordinance. On August 9th, the planning office approved another land use compatibility statement for another recreational dispensary on the very same street corner at 8th and Adams, allowing the Oregon Liquor Control Commission to license 2 recreational facilities on the same street corner in McMinnville. The land use form that I'm referring to is part of the package I just gave you. The OLCC, this is a yes or no document. It's approved or disapproved. The OLCC really only cares about that. Is the land use permitted or is it not permitted? There is a contingent condition spelled out in the comments section. And I spoke to the OLCC licensing agent about that, and he made it clear that they're not interested in any comments or conditions. If a city isn't allowed by their own ordinance to approve another land use form, then the city should deny any additional forms that are submitted that are inside of the boundary that the city has set in their own municipal code, which all of you council members have voted in earlier this year. So effectively, a land use form was approved that violates the city's own ordinance. Not just within 1,000 feet, but virtually on the exact same street corner, right across the street from each other, two recreational facilities. So the reason I'm here is to bring that out so you can have a dialogue about that. Perhaps I think I would just recommend right now that you consider looking into the processes and procedures to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. The intent of the ordinance is pretty clear. The city does not want recreational and medical facilities right next to each other, and not even every other block, and it's happened. So that's all I had.
Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Larry? You have any questions right now?
Oh, I didn't realize this had happened. It just doesn't. Go ahead, Mike.
But I believe, and City Attorney Kosh is not present this evening, but I believe there's been a tort claim notice filed by Mr. Risden, and his attorney's been working with our attorney on records request related to this matter. So I think Heather's probably more familiar with this than I am because I've not been involved, but I would caution, and I believe Mr. Gow would caution, that we should probably not entertain discussion on this matter this evening.
I would concur with that.
Okay, I would say then what I'll do is I'll thank Ms. Risen for coming tonight and bringing that up in front of us. And since it is a matter that potentially could be in litigation with the tort claim, I think it's appropriate that the council does not go into any further discussion. But thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Mark, come on forward, please.
I didn't bring my own pen, so I can't sign in. You got a pen, Rose? Oh, no,
Where did I get
Jared.
Maybe have you ever thought that was purposeful?
Mark Davis, 652 Southeast Washington. Unlike Jared, I still have my scruffy beard. I'd like to talk about affordable housing tonight. Within the last month, I noticed they were, emptied the Douglas Hotel and were upgrading it. And I, kind of went, well, okay, that's fine. It seemed okay. But then not too long ago, this did the same thing on our street. The Linville apartments, 12 units, 1 bedrooms, very affordable for the people that live there. They came in and decided to turn them into boutique apartments, raised the rent a couple $100, and basically everybody's gone. I know the city is concerned about affordable housing. I believe you have a task force working on affordable housing. I know you spend a lot of time and a lot of staff time working on the homeless issue. I think the lack of affordable housing, while not a direct cause of homelessness, certainly contributes to it. And I'm concerned that we're headed in the wrong direction. I mean, possibly this is just a coincidence, 2 things, and that's the end of it, and it's not going to happen anymore. But, kind of my question to the council, this is 20-some units of affordable housing. How are we going to replace it? The other concern in the back of my mind, and I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I have the feeling that Visit McMinnville is being very successful. And the entrepreneurs in our community are now realizing, gee, people want to come to McMinnville. Well, where can we get cheap property to buy, fix up, and start renting out? And, I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I'm certainly, wondering. And I think it behooves the council to be paying attention to what's going on. I don't know if there's some way the Affordable Housing Committee can look into this, or, the planning department or building department can, if they're pulling building permits for these upgrades and see what's going on. But I fear we're headed in the wrong direction here. And, if that's the case, I may be back at budget time saying, well, Visit McMinnville's getting money. I mean, basically the city is, got their finger on the scale. I mean, they're helping this out, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. But if there's going to be, side effects, I think the city also has some responsibility to be helping out in that direction. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Questions for Mark, Roundtable, Alan, Kevin, Kelly, Larry? Thank you once again, Mark. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the council that it's anything that is not on our agenda tonight? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on. And if I can get Jody Christensen from McMinnville Economic Development Partnership to join me down front, please.
I'd like to invite Jim White, Fenton Luz, and Deanna Benson from Freeland Way to join me.
Just can't, you have to bring all those backups. You brought one for back. Come on up there. This is a proclamation the city of McMinnville does, and we really get a lot of enjoyment out of doing proclamations for different organizations, nonprofits, and for our business partners. And this is a proclamation, McMinnville May Day, with the National Manufacturing Day for October 7th, 2016. Whereas manufacturing makes a very significant contribution to the national, state, and local economy, and whereas our community is fortunate to be the home of over 90 world-class manufacturing companies, and whereas those manufacturing companies add to the vitality and prosperity of our community by employing over 3,400 people with 108 million average annual payroll. And now, therefore, I, Richard L. Rick Olson, Mayor of the City of McMinnville, do hereby proclaim October 7th, 2016 to be McMinnville May Day in conjunction with the National Manufacturing Day in McMinnville, and urge all citizens to join us in recognizing the value of our manufacturers and the importance they serve in our community. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of McMinnville to be affixed this 27th day of September 2016. So first of all, thank you very much for everything you do. Thank you very much. And Jody, would you like to say a couple words on behalf of the group?
Well, thank you very much, Mayor. I would.
I'm going to leave you. She's going to say something anyway. So.
Okay, Kevin. Well, you really are leaving me.
I am. Jody, I know a smart deal when I see it.
We are honored to celebrate the manufacturers in our community. October 7th has always been a day that we've done small events, but this year we're really rolling out quite a number of activities. Our companies have opened their doors for VIP tours. We'll be celebrating with a lunch for many of our partners in our manufacturing community. And then from 2 to 4 at Connect Aviation at the Municipal Airport, we will be hosting an open house. We have over 16 manufacturers who will be presenting their products, sampling some products, showing us some really cool things that they're making. And we invite the community to come out and celebrate all the things that are made in McMinnville. Thank you.
Thank you once again, and we're so proud to have you all and your companies in McMinnville. So thank you very much. That's always a fun time when we get to do these proclamations and honor people and organizations with the city that contribute so much to our economic growth and to the city in general. We have next our consent agenda, and the items on the consent agenda are considered routine and we acted by one motion without several discussion on each item. After talking to legal counsel, we are going to be pulling two items off of the consent agenda and moving them on their own, and those will be, I will be pulling consent agenda number 2016-68, which is the resolution approving task orders number 2 and 3 to the personal services contract for the design of the Oregon Route 99W at 2nd Street Signal, and also 2016-69. So the resolution awarding a bid for the McMinnville Municipal Airport Runway 22 Rehabilitation Construction Project. So that being said, with those being pulled off, in your consent agenda, then there were the minutes of the June 14th, 2016 dinner meeting, a resolution approving a contract with Hawkins, Delafield and Wood, a resolution approving the acquisition of property from BBG Incorporated for the 5th Street Transportation Bond Project, and a liquor license application from Castile Custom Bottling LLC. So hearing no more, if there's nothing else to pull off the consent resolution, I will accept the motion that we approve the consent agenda. So moved by Councilor Mankey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Rudin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. What we'll do is we'll kind of skip around a little bit, and we'll go into those right now, into those two resolutions we pulled off, and the first is Resolution 2016, and that's task orders 2 and 3 to the personal services contract for the design of Oregon Route 99W at 2nd Street Signal Project. And Mike, if you can give us a very short report on that one, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'll refer you to the staff report and background materials that are included in your packet. These two task orders amend your contract with Murray Smith and Associates related to our 2nd Street Signal Project and our 1st and 2nd Street pedestrian improvements projects that were part of our 2014 transportation bond. You have an existing contract that was awarded to Murray Smith and Associates in November of 2015, and they've been doing preliminary design work related to the 2nd Street Signals project. As part of that work, we identified potential impacts to First Federal parking lot based on the need to widen 2nd Street, and we've met a couple times with First Federal to review the project impacts, and based on some feedback I received from them, we've proposed adjusting the project and widening partially towards the fire station and partially towards First Federal, sort of help minimize impacts to First Federal's parking. It actually, while we'll have a impact on the fire department's driveway, we do believe that we might be able to improve some grade issues that the chief currently has getting in and out of his driveway. So there is a potential project benefit for actually widening towards the fire station a little bit. Task order number 2 that you see before you this evening reflects the additional design work we need to do to reflect that change in the project scope. Task order number 3 builds on some preliminary work that Murray Smith and Associates did related to the 1st and 2nd Street pedestrian improvements work. This task order carries us from the preliminary concept work that's been done already through design documents and bid documents for that work. And in the packet, you will find a map that identifies a significant amount of corner improvements that we're doing along 1st and 2nd Street in the downtown core to make those pedestrian crossings safer. We'll also be repaving some of the porous sections of 1st and 2nd Street along that corridor to really enhance the safety of the traveling public and the walking public in that area. That work is scheduled to be built in the summer of 2018, the summer after we construct the 2nd Street Signals work. There's some economies of scale by having the same design contractor work on those projects since they're connected. We save some money on surveying and save some design coordination costs. So that task order that's before you this evening is for $259,763. And I would recommend, unless there are any questions, that you adopt the resolution that approves task orders 2 and 3 and that you authorize that work to begin.
Okay, thank you, Michael. We've received a staff report from our city engineer requesting that the council approve resolution number 2016-68. Do I hear a motion?
I so move.
So moved by Councilor Mackey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Yoder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, let it show that resolution 2016-68 passed the council unanimously of those members present.
Mayor, I had a question for
Sure, Alan.
Mike. We talked a couple months ago about the possibility of environmental issues where the coffee kiosk is right now. Has that ever been resolved? Underground tank or lines or something?
Excellent memory, Alan. Task order number 1 to this contract was actually an amendment to their contract to do some additional environmental work based on the preliminary results of the environmental assessment that was done with the project. The consultant has had a geotech firm out to do the borings and analyze the results of that. I expect to have confirmation from the state that the results that we have found indicate that we don't anticipate problems with the project. There may be some special environmental concerns with soil that we removed to put in traffic signal foundations that might have to be classified as hazardous and disposed of properly. But overall, the impact to the project should be minor.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alan. That takes us on to resolution number 2016-69, and that's the resolution awarding a bid for the McMinnville Municipal Airport Runway 4-22 Rehabilitation Construction Project, and that's the City of McMinnville's project number 2014-1. So, Mike, if we could have a staff report on that one, please.
Again, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Again, in your packet, you'll find a brief staff report outlining the bid results, recommendation from our consulting engineer regarding award of the contract, and a resolution approving the award of the contract. This one's a little unique. We actually bid this work in May and had really good bid results from Kirk Contractors. And then we had to wait until the federal aviation grant cycle caught up with us, and they actually awarded us the construction money to perform this work. That happened, you'll recall in June, you approved a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign the grant agreement. We received that agreement in late September, and now we're able to move forward with awarding this construction contract. The runway rehab work was planned to start and will start next spring in May and be completed by the fall of 2017. We're working around impacts to the streaked-horned lark, which is an endangered bird that resides on our airport. So the stars have finally aligned. We have federal grant money. We already have Connect Oregon grant money in place to cover the city's match. And we're asking you this evening to award the contract to Kirk Contractors in the amount of $6,649,819.66. With that, I'd entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions of staff? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Rudin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Yoder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, let it show that resolution number 2016-69 passed the council unanimously of those members present. Thank you very much, Michael. That takes us into presentations tonight. Before we begin our presentations tonight, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Yamhill County Commissioner Stan Primasic tonight and County Administrator Laura Chauvel tonight. And I don't know if Cynthia, if you're going to do it or if you're all going to do it. Cynthia's going to do it and you're just here to observe. So welcome Stan, welcome Laura. So come on up.
I want to thank you tonight. My name is Stan Primasic, Yamhill County Commissioner, address 535 Northeast 5th Street, McMinnville, Oregon. And with me tonight is Cynthia Thompson, who is the manager and director of our transit program for Yamhill County. As you recall, earlier this year, we had a joint meeting of the City Council and a town hall meeting. And during that meeting, several items were brought up concerning our transit program. And so we agreed at that time to come back and give you an update and let you know what's going on. We did receive a grant earlier, late last year, that allowed us to do a major study of our transit program so that we could come forward with improvements. Cynthia has been really working hard to bring that to a conclusion, and we have some preliminaries from that study. And so Cynthia is here tonight to complete our obligation to come back and give you that information. So with that, I'm just going to introduce her and let her take it away. But thank you for letting us be here.
You're welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you. I don't have to push any buttons, it's just on. Well, good evening, Mayor Olson and councilors. Thank you for making time on your agenda for me to provide an update about Yamhill County Transit. It's your transit system, and so it's probably good that you know a little bit about it. And before I get started, I wondered, does anybody have any burning questions or issues that you are hoping I will address in my presentation? I'm probably going to give you an update from the 5,000 foot level maybe. So if you want me to dive deeper in any area, does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. It is a PowerPoint, which I know you've seen way too many PowerPoints in your life, but I will try to go through it rather quickly, so it won't be too painful, hopefully. First, I thought I would share a little bit about me and who I am and why am I in Yamhill County. In addition to being a wife and a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 6, soon to be 8, which is kind of cool. I just learned last night my daughter is going to have a baby, a second child. Yay. I'm also the transit manager for Yamhill County Transit, and I've worked in the transit industry for, I hate to say it, but 27 years. And I started working in the industry in a rural Southern Oregon town, much like McMinnville. And then I worked in the industry for quite a while, and then I started my own business about 9 years ago, and I've been helping transit agencies and working on transportation programs and transit-related projects since then. That was about 2007. Prior to that, I managed the Transportation Options Division program in the city of Portland. I managed SMART in Wilsonville for about 6 years. And then I managed Basin Transit in Klamath Falls. So I've spent a lot of time and energy thinking about and working with transit agencies, small and medium-sized transit agencies. But my career path has kind of brought me full circle back to a smaller community and doing what I really love, which I do have a real passion for community transit. I just think it's so important, and there's so many wonderful things that it can do for our community. So you're lucky to have one, and you have a pretty good system here. A few years ago, I decided to scale back. I had a lot of projects, and I decided to just focus on one thing. And so the good news is that's sort of when the relationship with Yamhill County started. And that because of my own personal situation, I need flexibility. The county is able to offer me that, and I'm able to offer them my experience, and so it's kind of a win-win situation for us, I think. They get somebody with a lot of experience, and I get to do what I love, and hopefully it will continue on for a while. So I thought I would provide you a brief overview of the services. I'm not sure how much folks know about Yamhill County Transit. I don't think we've done an excellent job of marketing the system, so you may know, if you don't ride it, you may know very little. So I'll be brief, it won't take very long, but just sort of the structure, what services we provide, how we're funded, and then how you as a city can help us and support the system going forward. And I will talk about the plan that Stan referred to, although we aren't finished with the plan, we're just beginning the plan, actually. It's taken like a year to just get the scope of work, and I think we're about to an agreement stage with ODOT. But So Yamhill County, the structure for the service is that Yamhill County is the governing body. It was formed in 2007 as a county service district. And the Board of Commissioners are the Board of Directors for the transit district. In 2012, they contracted with First Transit to start providing all of the transit services. They handle everything, hiring the drivers, dispatchers. They also do the fleet maintenance. They have insurance. So basically the operation is handled by First Transit. In July of 2015, I was officially brought on board as the transit manager, and I focus mostly on grants, compliance, planning, oversight of the transit contract. And we also have 2 committees that advise us on various aspects of the transit system. We have the Yamhill County Transit Advisory Committee, which Councilor Yoder serves on, and we just got that going again after a little hiatus. So although I think it's almost a year, I think this month, which is kind of hard to believe. And their primary function is to really offer advice to the county and to me on all aspects of the transit system. We also have a Special Transportation Fund Advisory Committee, and that committee's primary role is to allocate state funds that we get for elderly and disabled transportation. And they make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners on how that funding should be allocated. They also are certainly welcome citizens coming and talking to them about the services, and primarily focus on elderly and disabled transportation aspects of the service. You might not know just some facts about Yamhill County Transit. We have the First Transit employs 38 employees, both part-time and full-time. The county owns 30 vehicles, and we lease the vehicles to First Transit, and then the First Transit provides the insurance. You may have been involved when the transit center was built on 2nd Avenue. I don't know if the city had a relationship when that was happening with YCTA, but that's where First Transit staff are housed. There's a driver small break room. There's space for 4 to 6 buses. There's 2 public restrooms. All of the buses are maintained up at the First Transit School bus services shop. And then most of the parking of the buses is also at the First Student shop on Lafayette. Yamhill County serves 4 major transportation corridors: Highway 18, 47, 99, and 221, and we connect 17 cities. So that's kind of a cool thing, I think. Yamhill County, obviously being sort of in between 2 metropolitan areas, Salem and Portland, connections are pretty important and to a lot of people. We have local service in, if you can see, obviously local service in Newburgh, local service in McMinnville, and then there's complimentary paratransit for elderly and disabled in those 2 communities. Then commuter service to Tigard, about 9 round trips a day, to Hillsborough, Max Station about 5 times a day, to Grand Ron, I think around 5 or 6 times a day, and then to Salem about the same, 5 or 6 times a day. The majority of YCTA's funding, operating, I'm just going to talk operating. I didn't do the entire, capital and operating because it sort of skews a little bit, just so you can kind of see what operating revenue and operating expenses come from. But primarily, you can see 69%, almost 70% comes from grants. Most of our operating grants are federal grants that flow through the state, and so I call them state grants. But you can see fares make up about 14% of our operating revenue. And then the county contributes 13%. The cities, all the 10 municipalities, and then Grand Ron, you contribute about 3% towards the overall revenue. The expenses, you can see the lion's share is operating maintenance, 66%. That's basically the First Transit contract for handling the operation. There's admin, materials and service, and then the county pays for the fuel for the buses. About 15% of expenses are for fuel. The sub-provider and special projects, that's some grants we've gotten to do some technology, and then we have funding that flows through us, through the county, to some smaller nonprofits for elderly and disabled transportation. YCTA is a rather young system, but it has a lot of potential, and there is definitely room for growth. There's definitely room for improvement. But the current stats show us there is truly a need for the service in this area. YCTA travels 656,000 miles a year, which is the equivalent of going to the moon and back almost to the moon again every year. And they operate almost 40,000 hours a year. Ridership averages around 25,000 rides a month, and around 300,000 a year. We dropped a little bit in 15-16. I'm not really sure exactly why, except I wouldn't be surprised if it's because, we really could use better information out there and letting people know about the service. We have a lot of buses that don't even have markings on them, so that's, I really think there's a lot of room for growth when it comes to ridership. So who rides the system? You can see almost 200,000 is just adults, general public. Close to 80,000 are senior and disabled, and almost 11,000 are children and youth. An accomplishment that's good news for all of us is that we have been pretty successful in getting grants. We submitted, since I've arrived, about a little over a year, we've submitted over almost $6 million in grants for operating capital, technology, and planning, and we've been approved for over $4 million. And we have one pending that we believe will be $450. It might even be as high as $750. So we're waiting to hear on that one. The priorities for the system over the next couple years really needs to be to bring. The priority isn't to have an aging fleet, it's to have a standard of the industry fleet, and so we're working on that. About 60% of our fleet is either really close to being at the end of its useful life or past its useful life according to the transit and industry standards. And because we do travel a lot of miles, the average round trip for our commuter routes is almost 60 miles, so it's a lot of miles that we're putting on buses. So it's always going to be a continuing, ongoing need that we're going to have, and so we're going to have to be busy looking for funding for buses. We have a range of buses from minivans to mid-size to large 30-foot, 35-foot. And then you may have noticed that we don't have hardly any bus stop signs or not very many shelters, and the ones that are out there could really use maps and things like that. And so we have limited staff to work on this issue, and so I'm kind of hoping that cities like McMinnville and other cities will be able to help us in this area possibly. So if you have somebody at the city who I could talk to and could help us in that area, that would be great. Our technology grant we just got, I think, will be useful and make the system more efficient. We're going to be able to do more real-time information, so if you're standing at the stop, you'll be able to find out when the next bus comes and go on a website and see real-time information. Now, obviously, we have a lot of elderly folks and people that maybe don't have smartphones, and they don't care about this issue, but, and I've heard that from them. It's like, you're not big city, and I'm not trying to be a big city, but it is useful, and it can make the system more efficient, even not only for the riders, but also for the dispatchers and for the operation as a whole. So that will probably come on board in about a year. It could be a little more than a year, depending on the contract and how that goes with the state. So what's next is that I really want to talk to you about is that we did get approved, as Stan said, for this Transportation Growth Management Long-Range Transit Development Plan. It's taken like a year just to get to the stage where it's finally in the final stages of approval at ODOT. We expect to have it next month and then have a kickoff in October. And we would love to have as much involvement from the community, from all of you, from people that you know that you think should be involved, leaders, business leaders, community organizations. We want to touch everybody, and there'll be a lot of avenues. There'll be meetings, there'll be focus groups, online surveys, regular surveys, lots of different ways for people to get involved. this is a horrible slide, but it's supposed to kick off in October and be completed by July of 2018. I wish it didn't take that long, but it does. So, as I already said, how can you help? You could help us get the word out. You could help us by participating, and this is my contact information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions any of you might have.
Hey, thank you, Cynthia. Do we have any questions for Cynthia or the commissioner? Or Larry, you have any questions? Kelly?
No, but thank you for your presentation.
Kevin?
Welcome.
Not at this time, thanks.
Alan?
I did have one.
Yeah.
Thank you for that presentation.
You're welcome.
You mentioned lack of signage or information and kiosks and things like that. What's the main thing holding that back? Is it budget constraints, or is it
It's a little
will, or?
No, it's not lack of will. It's probably just lack of staff resources to do. We don't really have a person. I've been looking at vendors, and we don't really have it budgeted to hire vendors necessarily to go and help with that. We have, and then there's a lot more to it than just, oh, let's go place a sign. We have state highways, we have city streets, we have county roads, we have lots of different requirements depending on where you want to place them, and then the process you probably should go through to get approvals for those sorts of things. And so my immediate goal is just to create the map of where we want all of the stops to be. In the local communities, Newburgh and McMinnville, they're flag stops, and then on the commuter routes, we actually have stops. You can go online and find them through Google, but they aren't physically there. They're just in the computer. And so it does makes it confusing. And so it's just a matter of getting the map done, getting it out and going, just taking the time to go around to the various communities and say, hey, here's where we have a stop. There will be debate. Sometimes you want to put a stop somewhere, and you're like, I don't want to put a stop in front of my store or whatever. So you have a lot of back and forth. It can take time. So it's really more of just having enough staff resources to do that. And then also the installation. That's where probably a city like McMinnville could help. You have a bond, you're doing your street improvements. We could give you a list of here's where we show all the stops, and you could help by, maybe when you're making the improvement, putting in the stop. If we want a shelter, we think there's a need for a shelter to make them ADA accessible. A lot of times you have to pour a pad or have it, be a certain size. So I think first step is probably just, I've spoken with Mike. He was very helpful with another piece of that we were working on early on. But to be honest, my focus has just been pretty much on grants and trying to get bus situation improved.
And Martha, you had some comments or questions?
I had a question too.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin. Why don't you go through that one? Turn it over to
just-
Martha.
Alan made me think of this. The last time you guys came, I was asking about the bicycle limitations. Has that changed, or is there any explanation?
Hasn't really changed. We do have some grants that are about. We're at the point of we're going to be ordering 3 new larger buses and 3 medium buses within the next couple months, and we will order racks that hold 3 bikes, and then we plan to order. Going forward, that's all we will order. That's the maximum you can get right now is a rack that holds 3 bikes, which there are quite a few people who use bikes, so that may still not solve the problem. I think the real-time and the technology grant could be very helpful because we may have a way through that project to actually show a customer that the racks are full. So before you ride there, you'd be able to go online and say, oh, my stop, it's full, because the driver would have had a way to push a button on a mobile data terminal and show that the wheelchair slots are full or the bike slots are full. That would be really nice, but we're a little more than a year away from that probably.
Thanks.
Okay, Martha. Turn it over to you.
Cynthia, just for later on, not probably the beginning of the new year, I would recommend that you come back and check with our Visit McMinnville organization, as they've developed a committee to take a look at wayfinding and signage. And we just had a conversation about doing a look at for professional services and a company to come in, take a look, starting from all the exteriors to the interior signage and kiosks. And it would be not only the visitation part, but also city signage writ large. So we may be able to help you out
Oh, that would be great.
on that. And right now it's in its, we've only had our second meeting on that subcommittee, but I would anticipate that the ability to work with the county to get at some signage better on that, to help our citizens out, I think there's something we can do there
Great.
coming into the new year.
Okay, cool.
It'd be great if you could put us in the mail so that maybe Cynthia can be made aware of those meetings.
Definitely.
And that way we can have that connectivity.
Okay. You have my email address, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Cynthia.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anything
Thank
you'd
you.
like to close with, Stan, or
I'm sorry?
anything you'd like to close with? Any comments?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to come tonight. Cynthia's doing a great job. If you look at the information she's presented, I don't know if it was something I said, but we had a transit manager, and when I got elected, I went over and introduced myself on a Thursday afternoon, being the liaison, and she never came back to work. So I guess I'll just have to leave that at that. But we were very, very blessed to have Cynthia come on board, and just in this last year, the things that she's accomplished, getting us. First, she got us through a very scary audit because things had been sliding and we did not realize how bad it was. So Cynthia was able to get us through that. Now she's able to really help us move forward. And I think within the next year, you're going to see some amazing things happen. So appreciate you allowing us to come and share with you. We are going to want to create a real partnership with the city of McMinnville because I think we can really help each other. And so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Stan. Thank you. Okay, that takes us, council, and feel free if you guys don't want to, Laura, if you guys don't want to stay, you can I know after a long day, you probably had enough meetings and stuff today. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Okay, now we have another presentation, and this is from the fire chief, and this is regarding fire department staffing update. And we'll have a short presentation, then council discussion. So, chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with Councilor Menke and Hill and the city manager discussing some of the staffing challenges that we have at the fire department. In particular, the ability to add some additional staffing that will designate as a floater or a person that we can move from shift to shift to help cover in vacancies for vacation. The fire department has minimum staffing levels based on whether it's our standards of cover requirement that's been adopted by the council or our contractual obligation to provide ambulance service to the city. So we can have one person be off. We have 10 assigned to each shift. We can have one person be off at any one time without incurring overtime. But because we have 10 people on a shift, we have to have two off in order to get everyone through their allotted vacation times. When we go into those second days, we have it's mandatory overtime and work back. In this first quarter, we had 109 shifts of overtime work back, in addition to the 28 that were covered by the floater that was authorized by the council in July. What that means to the workforce is that there were 109 days where someone worked 48 hours straight running calls in the ambulances. That's a significant stress on the system, on the employees, and on the department, and it tends to increase our risk with decision making when it comes to medical issues out in the field or fire issues on the fire ground. The goal and the committee decided that it would be appropriate to recommend to council that we would add 2 additional floaters. And the reason that it was recommended to be able to do that is because each floater has the ability to cover enough overtime shifts to pay for themselves within the next the remainder of the fiscal year. The chart that you see up on your screen was based on a full calendar year of 1, 2, and 3 persons in floating positions, and the documentation underneath just basically prorates it based on 1 full-time floater for the duration of the full year and 2 floaters for the remainder of the year and the amount of time that they can cover. So while the original proposal had some savings associated with bringing floaters on, this proposal has a break-even proposal. If we bring in the 2 additional floaters, we'll be able to reduce our overtime shifts significantly for the rest of the year. And given the statistical analysis that we've done on the 3 previous years, we believe there's not a problem in covering the costs of these positions with the overtime based on the $1,300 it is for shift coverage for 24 hours. And we're bringing in firefighter EMTs at the $104,000 wage and benefit package rate.
Okay, any questions, comments around, Alan?
I have one question.
Sure.
Chief, I'm sure you factor in the PERS requirements also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This includes salary and benefits in healthcare and PERS on both sides, because we have a salary, we have a roll-up for health, for benefits on overtime, as well as for the standard wage for the employees, and that's factored into these equations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Larry? Kelly?
Just to clarify one more time, this keeps you within your budget.
Yeah, there'll be no additional budget requests for this process. The cost of the positions should be it stays within our personnel service costs. The overtime will be used, basically shifted into personnel costs. We also have had the creation of those 109 shifts that I talked about in the first quarter. 40 some of those were vacancies. We had vacancies initiate right at the beginning of the fiscal year, and so we have some cushion in there as far as the vacancies for the 2 full-time firefighters that left to go to another department.
Okay, Kevin?
Thanks for the creative problem solving here. It's nice to have a solution that's budget neutral. So thank you.
I think budget neutral to me is very important. Again, I have to congratulate the chief in putting this together, but I think what's more important than budget neutral is the potential burnout and the loss of good firefighters. We're never going to be able to keep every firefighter from leaving. I mean, we just don't have a lot of promotion, but I get very concerned about the burnout and the potential safety issue it creates on the fire ground. So the fact that these additional 2 floater positions are budget neutral is just wonderful, but I think it addresses another very serious problem we have. So I think therefore, I'm all, from what I've heard, I think what we can do is since it's within the budgeted amounts approved by the budget committee and the council, we can just by consensus approve 2 additional firefighters, which will be offset by the overtime costs. And since it is within the budget, no budget amendment is necessary, as it's budget neutral. Do you agree with that, Marcia, that it is budget neutral and nothing else? So by consensus, we don't have to take a vote. If everybody's for that, we'll just do it by consensus.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so considered approved, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
this is a big win for the city.
Yeah, that's a big win for the city. Okay, that takes us to Chief Scales, and this is an update on police department staffing issues.
Yes,
Yours, Matt.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I appreciate the time. I think what I'll just kind of preface this, I know we're going to have a council work session in November. Will probably be framed in more like a long-term funding, stable funding solutions for public safety, specifically maybe the police department. But I want to talk maybe a little bit more about immediate staffing needs within the police department. And over the last few months, you've heard from myself, Sergeant Fessler. You've had staff reports provided to the council about staffing recommendations, where we need to be, where we are in comparison with others, and what we're not doing. My goal as chief, and I've made this commitment to our staff, is I want the McMinnville Police Department to be the jewel of Oregon when it comes to staffing appropriately and providing proactive enforcement in areas that we historically just don't do. And as we talk about the understaffing of the police department, I think that there's two issues that we're dealing with, both internally and externally. And the external issues are that issues that our officers are unable to quickly complete investigations, reports, the lack of proactive policing that we talked about throughout these conversations, the need to ensure citizen safety, deter crime, criminal activity, deal with neighborhood concerns that are reported to you continuously throughout your year, and the increasing inability of our officers to respond to all critical calls. Internally, the concerns are, what are we not doing? Okay, we need to add capacities to our school resource officers. We need to add capacity to our investigation section. We don't have a traffic safety component. We don't now, as of recently, you've heard that we no longer staff anybody in YCENT. These are critical community issues. And on top of that, then we deal with extreme frustration by our employees because they're working a tremendous amount of overtime to fill shifts. It's giving a cost to the city in funding. It's also at a cost, as Chief Lightford talks about, stressors on family lives. My job as the chief is to ensure a healthy workplace, but also I want our staff to have a healthy home life. And quite frankly, in the recent, when you see somebody like Detective Sam Elliott, and no disrespect to the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office, they're a fine organization, but when a person of 15 years decides to move to Yamhill County, take a pay decrease to ensure that his family life is healthy and that his workload is doable, I think we're at a point where we need to talk about some immediate solutions to these issues. And I've talked 14 years, did the research that you've seen a tremendous growth in the city, 20+%, where the workforce at the police department has not kept up. Visit McMinnville's here. We've got bypass issues. Visit McMinnville brings in tourists. Transit Authority brings people into MAC. You saw the numbers that is there. This is the hub of the services for Yamhill County. And quite frankly, I'm concerned I'm going to lose more staff because I don't have the resources on the patrol side, because we pulled from patrol to put in detectives to adequately ensure, one, that our citizens are safe, but I want to keep our employees. Our employees are not plug and play. They're not able to go and just replace somebody with somebody of Sam Elliott's stature. He's been in investigations for probably close to 8 years. We're losing that resource. And the minute we lose those resources, it is impossible to get back. And when we don't have the capacity to investigate those complicated crimes that we've talked about, both on patrol side and investigation side, we're doing our citizens a disservice. So I just want to open up the conversation with, I would just request some immediate relief. In my perfect world, 3 officers would do us a huge service where we're able to fill relief shifts so officers aren't having to stay extra, or they're not having to, they're able to get into the office quicker to do reports. So I just ask that we maybe open up a conversation. And I know I didn't want to catch you off guard, but as your chief, I think it's important that you know, okay? Conversations that we've had the last 6 months have been more beneficial than I've seen in my 24 years. But again, I've been here 24 years, and I have not seen the stress on our department that I've seen ever, okay? I'm going to be candid with you. I don't want to lose employees. I want them to see a light at the end of the tunnel. I want them to see a glimmer of hope that that our city understands the predicament that we're in, knowing that there's going to be long-term funding solutions that we're going to talk about down the road. But I just wanted to share that with you all.
Thank you, Matt. Let me go around the council. Let me start with Councilor Mankey.
Mayor, may I please?
Yeah, let me start with you, Kelly.
Okay, thank you. Looking at the financial part of this situation, we're looking at 3 officers. I was given a cost per officer per year that is at the higher rate, the higher step level of $120,000 per year. So 3 officers would be $360,000. In addition, to outfit these officers with uniforms and a gun and whatever else they need is an additional $7,500. So we're looking at a total of $367,500. There will be a car necessary down the road, but that is not up for discussion tonight. Where will we get the money? Well, there's a couple of potential sources of revenue. One of them is the beginning fund balance was estimated at $7,300,000 or $200,000, and it actually was closer to $7,300,000. So there's $100,000 there that we have in potential revenue to add at least one officer. And then there's potential, which would be a policy decision that we'd have to take under consideration down the road, and it would require some negotiations. But Northwest Natural we're looking at possibly increasing fees for Northwest Natural from 3% to 5%. And we estimate that would increase the overall revenues by $104,000. So looking at those two, plus we also have budgeted reserves, $750,000. So looking at those and a potential cost for 3 officers of $367,500, taking out $204,000 that we actually have potentially revenues for in the short term. We're looking at going into the fund balance for around $163,500. So the question is, obviously, this is a fairly serious situation, and we are interested in trying to fund most of those. But we don't know. There's potential sources of revenue down the road, like the state tax for marijuana, which we don't have any idea yet what the amounts will be and when we'll actually get it. There is the costs, or the 3% tax that we are going to have a vote on November 8th. Again, we don't know if it will pass or not. We're hoping it will. That would be revenue as of the first of the year. Then getting closer to home, we have the October 20th, we'll actually know how we're going to do for tax revenues this year. And so looking at those three things, probably the tax revenues on October 8th would give us the best answer regarding a third officer. So for discussion with the group, we're kind of looking for a consensus from you as to what you would like to do. It looks pretty easy. Well, not easy, but we can fund 2 officers and maybe put off the third officer at least until October 8th.
Larry?
I like the sound of that. I think it's very necessary because we're encountering so much more activity in the police department, and the need for them is getting greater, and I believe that as our laws have changed and other things are being allowed, and I think it's even going to be, we've got more problems that we're going to be facing in the future, and we need to gear up for it because our citizens are expecting protection, and we need to provide it for them.
Kevin?
You can go back down.
Okay, let's go down to you, Alan.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chief. I had some thoughts about it, which I don't think were accurate. Was that, are they getting paid overtime? And there's a limit to that. I know when you put in extra time on the job, you expect to be reimbursed for that. But to do the overtime that you're talking about is taken away from their family, stress levels, emotional stability, and public safety as an end product of that. So I kind of discounted that, and there's a limit to overtime for sure, no matter what the reimbursement is for that. So I'm in favor of adding those 3. I think we'll come up with a way to fund that, even if we have to go into the general fund or whatever.
Reserves, excuse
reserves.
me,
Yeah.
my voice is going.
The
Yeah,
reserves,
general fund reserves.
Such an immediate problem takes immediate steps, and I think we need to move forward on it. It's not going to get any better. I know we've been waiting to see how it all goes out, but I think it's only negative from here if we don't make a change somehow. Thank you, Mayor.
Council President?
Oh, is there a way that public may speak as well?
No, not on this one. Sorry, Jared.
Okay, it's not on the agenda as well for the...
It is on, I know this is on the agenda, but right now the discussions is around the council right now.
All right. I really appreciate the chief bringing this to our attention, and I think the research that Marcia has done on this, and Kelly as well, has really helped us to get a picture of the financial situation here. Trying to look at this solely on as the administrative financial situation, it's reassuring that there seems to be some hope that we can put these officers in place fairly quickly without compromising our financial footing. I believe we need 10 officers, and 3 is kind of a stopgap. And we don't have the funding mechanisms right now to do 10, but we need to be thinking that. We need to be planning for those future needs. And the police department isn't alone in that. There's so many other departments that also have staffing needs, but I'm beginning to believe that like what Kelly said, is that having 2 officers able to kind of get red light, green light them to be hired right away is the right thing to do, and then waiting just a few more weeks on those on that 3rd officer. But we really need to figure out a long-term funding here. And
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Long-term, and I will be at that table championing, providing feedback, partnering with other people that need to be at that table. My immediate need is the sanity of our staff.
Absolutely. Now, Matt, when the detectives presented, there was a gentleman from the state association with the detectives. He was mentioning that there's some grant funding for.
That was the fire.
Fire. Too bad.
Yeah.
Okay. What I mean is, I was thinking if we could grant fund those guys a stopgap for some of until we figure out the funding, that would be great. But
Yeah.
If the fire department would help out, maybe we could.
yeah. Why did I think that was detective? Anyways, I just think it's time. We need to do this, and so yeah, I have my support.
Okay, thank you. Larry?
I just had one follow-up question. I know that even if we approved it tonight, there is a time lapse before these guys hit the ground running. What is that time frame?
Right now, I think, Rose, we posted for Detective Elliott's.
It will be in the morning.
Okay. I would envision, in a perfect world scenario, we are not able to bring somebody on board until November for his position. If we dovetail that hiring process with these new additions, I think we'll be in the same boat, okay? Now, the ability for us to get laterals is a question. So we may be, we're talking laterals right now at at a higher cost. If we are unable to, we hire at a lower cost. Now, I will say traditionally, the McMinnville Police Department, even when we brought somebody on from a different agency that's been there even upwards of 15 years, they're still not starting at the top step because our employees are compensated, in market. So there could be some salary savings if we're not. I would anticipate, Councilor Mickey, that you'll see not that high step that we project. I would anticipate a lower step like we have historically with laterals. And if it's if it's not a lateral, then we're dealing with academy time, and we're talking 16 weeks of that. The academy is talking about adding an additional 4 weeks to make it 20 weeks for training before we're not going to see somebody. But I want to explain the ability for us as administrators for the city to show our employees that there is something happening is critically important to staff. I don't sleep well. I'll be honest with you. I want to sleep better, but I'm concerned, and I don't want to let the city or the citizens or my officers or staff down.
I'd like to go back I'm going to go back a little ways in earlier tonight's meeting when Mark Davis was up here speaking. He spoke about affordable housing and the homeless and what the city's doing. I'm a firm believer that they dovetail each. If you don't address affordable housing and you don't address homeless, crime rate's going to go up. Because people that may have been able to afford housing can't longer afford it, so they're going to be staying out of town, coming into town. It's going to create more homes, and I really think it's a catch-22. And I think it goes together, and until that point where the city does something about affordable housing, whatever that's going to be, I think we're going to see this rate or this trend continue. But as the chief said, for an immediate fix, I don't know what we can do. When the chief was talking about dovetailing positions, and we have to replace Sam Elliott's position, my gut feeling tells me, and this is just my gut feeling, that if we look at property tax revenue and everything we're hearing, property tax revenue is going to be up. We don't know what the state marijuana tax portion is going to be, but what you read and what we hear at League of Oregon Cities is going to be quite substantial. I would hate to go with two people and turn around a month or 2 months from now and then add that third. I think if the council feels comfortable that we can do that third, that we should go ahead and do all three at the same time, and that's just my opinion. Two is great, but I think I'd like to see
Well,
it do
in
it.
the interview process, I'm sure that Matt will have several people that he could pick from. It just would be another few weeks later. So I don't see why it wouldn't occur in the interview process, and he'd just notify the person down the road.
I anticipate interviews for a lateral position to be a command type interview, which I want to shorten the process up and streamline it for them to be the end of, I believe, October, the first part of November.
So even if we went through the process for the third recruitment and it turns out the money isn't going to be there, we don't have to make an offer.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So we could do the recruitment.
The interviews, I see no reason why the interviews
go through
can't
all
occur
three, yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have a choice of 2 or 3, depending on what happens October 20th. So the only reason I say this is because I've been told that there is a certain level of risk, and I just want people to realize that there is a certain level of risk. There's no guarantee that 3% is going to pass. We don't have any idea when we're going to get the money from state. And, it's just something to be aware of.
Well, I think that being said,
I'd like to give you 3 officers right now, but from what I can see, the way you're going about the interview process, you'll know by that point anyway.
and Kelly, I agree with that being said. Martha mentioned something, and I think that being said, I think a lot of it is showing our care and our concern of even though it's only showing it to the department and to the chief and the management staff, that we do take this very seriously and is an immediate that I would like to see the council by consensus based on the numbers you gave and everything, Kelly, that we go ahead and agree to at least 2, putting two
With the potential of 3.
with the potential 3 if it works out in November or whenever, so at least.
Yeah. But I think the point is still a good one, though, that with the recruitment process, they could recruit for 3, and if the numbers aren't there, they just won't make an offer to the third one. So we can give them the green light to recruit for 3 now, and because they're going to start the interview process in November, we'll have the response the October 8th
Yeah,
from the
October
county.
20th.
October 20th.
I think I'd really like to leave that up to, say, the council and Matt, just to determine, are we better off doing the 3 or just going the 2? I think that's what we have the police chief for and everything, and so I'd rely a lot on what Matt, and if it's 2 now, it's 2 now, and if it's 3 now, it's 3 now. I like 3, but we definitely have to have 2. There's no question we have to have 2.
So it's the general consensus that we would ask Marcia to consider a resolution for a budget amendment for 2 officers and probably 3 officers, depending on the October 20th results of the tax revenue.
So what would be the negativity of just going ahead with 3 right now?
I'm sorry, what?
If we're in discussion mode right now,
Mhm.
what's the objection to just going ahead with 3 right now?
Because we do not know for certain that we have the money, and otherwise we'd have to dip into the reserves that are in the general fund. We do not know for a fact we're going to get it. Very likely that we're going to have plenty of revenue, but just.
Yeah, so right now, if nothing changed with the revenue forecast, it is as locked in kind of where we are now. We have enough money to
Do 2
comfortably for 2 throughout this fiscal year. but not knowing what next year will bring, we can't just fire somebody because of the budget. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
a
Like,
really
we don't
bad thing to
them.
hire somebody and then fire them. It doesn't go over well.
But I think the point is still,
Find a way.
Yeah.
I'd like to say 3, but.
yeah, I guess the question I have for you, Matt, is if we did say 3 and then it turns out the revenue forecast from the county for the property taxes aren't where we feel comfortable having to stick to 2, how would you think your staff would take that? I mean, would it be better to say 2 and then, surprise, there's 3, or 3 and no, sorry, there's only 2? I mean, the potential.
I say staff, I wouldn't be advocating for staff if I said 2. I think take a leap of faith with 3, trust. We're going to have obviously we're going to have some salary savings with Sam being on for a little bit at 2, but I say take a leap of faith. But again, that is honestly your call.
I feel comfortable with 3 now.
Okay, and if there's no consensus that we go through to, what I will do is I will call for a vote by the council, because we have 4 counselors. We have 4 counselors here, so it sounds like what we're down to is 2 or 3, and what I'd like to do is just do a vote of the council anyway. So Rose, if I could get you on this one to poll the council and poll the council
How are we voting?
president, this will be vote whether we have 2 or 3. So 3 would be an aye, 3 would be an aye vote, Rose.
Okay. Councilor Menke.
wait a minute. All right.
That wasn't confusing enough.
Put her on the spot.
How about
That vote is for a motion to have 3.
That vote is for a motion to have 3.
Okay. I guess I was not anticipating a motion tonight.
Well, I wasn't anticipating,
It's more of a
but
poll, but
Okay. It's not like I don't want to give them 3.
They need 5 or 6.
the thing is, though, if the budget note, or the budget amendment could be put off until they get close to running over. We could say 3 now, and if it really looks like it's not going to work, before the recruitment is off, before the position is offered, we can make adjustments. We're not doing anything, nothing's getting set in stone,
Well,
we're just
if-
giving direction at this point.
Then why even take a poll? Let's just say, yeah, go ahead, and you're going to know by the time you put the job thing up, so.
And the only reason I called for a vote, because there seemed to be some, not consensus, but Kelly, if you want to wait till we say through, but wait till we see the budget, the budget trends, that's fine too. So
That
the
is what I
budget,
want.
if the council is given figures on both 2 and 3
Mhm.
for the budget, I think that'll work. So Marcia, what we like to do is see the financial information on both 2 and on 3. And then, so that will then help us determine, I think that's what Kelly say, whether we go ahead
Have
Well,
that
the numbers
information
I've
already.
basically given you tonight are those numbers.
for 2.
No, it's for
3.
3. I
Oh,
mean,
I'd say
if we do 3, it's 367,500. That's how much it is.
Martha,
We can cover 200,000 of it.
Matt, going for 2 or going for 3, would it substantially change how you're going to advertise your interviews? So you're going to run the interviews as is, whether it's 2 or 3. So I don't believe, as long as, if he's authorized to go to 3 based on the budget, but it's not going to change how he fundamentally authorizes, like I said, how he's going to run the interview process. So you can make this decision on October 20th and not change his interview process.
Right.
The issue at hand is faith with your department. And I understand the hesitancy because we're very budget conscious and we are always budget conservative. So I understand your discussion of, do you promise to, because what we're asking is a promise, what you will back tonight. Will you back 2? And the idea is not, you're going to back 3 and then take 1 away. That's not a promise. What do you want to promise tonight to your police department? And then with the idea that we understand that we can do other things in the interview process. But I think it's important that if you're going to go 3, it's 3 today and not 3 with the possibility to pull it back later. It's 3 or 2. Matt, can I get your thoughts on that?
I would agree with that. The recruitment won't change. If you authorize 3, we'll look for 3 qualified candidates, and we will get them on board. So, yeah, it doesn't change recruitment. It maybe adds a little something to the enticement to come to McMinnville. They see the city's committed. They see that it's just not one. I think that maybe expands the pool. That's been our talk around the office in the what-if scenarios. So, did I answer your question?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff,
Rose, can you cancel that poll since you haven't polled anybody yet? I'll entertain a motion.
that we direct staff to promote 3, or to do an advertisement for recruiting 3 officers.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Council President Jeffries, a second by Councilor Rutten. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have a question.
Nay.
3 to 1. Okay, so now it has passed the council 3 to 1. Now that we've done that official action, it won't change our action any, but you can ask a question. I'll determine whether it's a question the councilors.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. It just stay at the top of the amendment here. If I do have any questions in public participation, encourage, and if I do have any desire to speak, to raise my hand, be recognized to be you, Mr. Mayor. So I appreciate it. Thank you. I just wanted to congratulate Matt over here. The discussions are pretty relevant. I've heard them before, but I just wanted to take a minute. Late in the evenings, I do go running, and I spend a lot of time, and again, appreciate all the work you do and the amendment brought forward. I go out and cross the street with this in the evenings, as well as I have a light. In the mornings, I spend time in front of the railroad off of Story Street with one of these, and I wave at the railroad, and I let them know that honking, obviously, with the railroad is required by law, but they're welcome to be kind about it. And again, I want Matt Scales to know that we do everything we can with the Mac City pastors, as well as work in the evenings, to make sure that we make sure that people are aware that there are citizens out there doing good.
Thank you. We had one other question up, Adam. I recognize Jared, so you did have your hand up. Here's the last question I'll recognize. So if you have to come up here. You know that. So I will actually recognize you now.
So it wasn't really a question. It was just to provide some insight to council. That was debate between 2 and 3. The state marijuana tax revenue, the original projection was 2 to 3 million for the whole year. The first quarter, they brought in 10.5 million, and the current projection is 42 million. So I think your third officer will be fully funded.
Told to. Thanks.
That was the only thing I was going to share.
Where'd you get that information?
That's posted through the OHA website, who's currently bringing in tax revenue. After the first of the year, it's going to go to 17 or 20%. Right now, it's at 25 for OLCC shops, medical shops. You don't pay tax on medical, but I'm guessing medical in the next 2 years is going to evolve like Colorado and Washington, where they're either going to do away with it or bring in a small tax liability.
Okay, thank you. Those are the same figures the LOC Board of Directors was given. It's just the state deciding how it's all going to be divvied up. That's the issue.
Remember,
Thanks,
the
Sam.
state can keep as much as they feel needed
That's
until
exactly
they bolster
correct.
themselves up. So.
That's exactly correct. So it's how much is going to float down is this. Okay. So, Matt, I'd appreciate it, of course, if you take back to your staff that the council is in definitely support and working just like you as the chief. The council is very concerned with with what you're facing over there also. And we want to make sure that they're not just healthy at work, but they're healthy personally too, so.
Okay. Again, thank you. I know it's a difficult discussion. It's topics that probably have not reached over the 24 years. It probably has been a little bit guarded as to the information, and I just want to, I think it's incumbent to share. I really do. I think it's information is powerful, and so I appreciate your time tonight.
Just tell them for now on they have to share uniforms and see how that goes.
They just have shared uniforms.
They can wear mine.
Sports
They'll wear mine. Yes.
And they can't wear fire uniforms either.
No,
I know they wouldn't want to wear fire uniforms. Okay, thank you very much, Matt. I know your passion comes out, and we know just how much you're concerned with your staff and everything. So thank you for being very frank and honest to the council. Sometimes we hear things we have to hear, but sometimes we don't want to hear. But thank you very much.
Can I make a comment? So the council, we just committed ourselves to something that's pretty extreme, to three staff, and I think as we go through the next budget cycle, we need to be thinking about that. There's going to be a lot of people coming to us asking for money, and we're going to have, going into this, 2017 is going to be a year we're going to have to make some really tough decisions on how we use our money, and I'm looking forward to the event in November as we start looking at some different revenue options, but this is going to be a year we're just going to have to really buckle down and figure out how we're going to fund some of these key things.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Kevin. Very good.
I would like to say thank you to Kelly for that nay vote, because that's what she does. She takes care of our money.
That's true, and you'll always be appreciated for that, Kelly.
That's important.
I'm fine with the way it turned out.
I want to extend, and I know it doesn't get relayed very much, and probably not the time or place. I know the public safety side of stuff. I know that our staff don't attend these meetings, but I will share with them that it was a spirited discussion, and that it was very informed, and that I know you all support public safety, period. All right, so I wanted to share that.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, councilors, that takes us on to ordinances now. Our first ordinance is established in McMinnville Committee for Public Arts, and I'll turn that over to you, Martha.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Steve Ripp with us tonight representing the McMinnville Downtown Association Committee for Public Art. And if you didn't know, that superb group was established back in 2007 to put really high-quality art pieces in our downtown to give citizens and visitors to historic downtown Mac an opportunity to interact with a really key function and nice design element in our downtown. The efforts resulted in many culturally significant pieces of art in our downtown district, and now we would like to extend their fantastic work to reach beyond the Downtown Association and into the city proper. And as such, we would like to make a recommendation that the McMinnville Downtown Association Committee for Public Art become just simply the McMinnville Community Public Art Committee for Public Art, and expand their role to beyond the downtown to the city writ large.
Thank you, Martha. I know Steve and I have had discussion a lot, and he knows how I feel about expanding that to the whole city, and I think we have a great committee, and of course, Steve has done a wonderful job, but we have so much good art downtown, I think we could definitely use some good art throughout the whole city to highlight other pieces of the city. So, Steve, thank you very much. So, do we have any discussion around the table of expanding the downtown community arts to this McMinnville Community Arts?
I think it's a great idea.
It's great. If none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
No.
Oh, wait a minute. Poll the council. It's an ordinance. Will you poll the council president last, please, Ro?
I'll be happy to.
You think she's not paying attention?
I need a motion to read it.
Yeah.
You're just temporary.
I'm sorry.
He's got to read it twice.
I'm checking. I'm sorry. Well, I have other things on my, but could you read that by title only, please?
Ordinance number 510, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville establishing the McMinnville Committee for Public Art.
Second reading, please.
Ordinance number 510, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville establishing the McMinnville Committee for Public Art.
Thank you. We've had a reading by the attorney. So now, Rose, can you poll the council president last, please?
Yes. Councillor Menke.
Aye.
Councillor Rudin.
Aye.
Councillor Yoder.
Aye.
And Council President Jeffries.
Aye.
Let it show the establishment of the McMinnville Committee for Public Arts was passed unanimously by those councilors present. Steve, now you can do 3 times the work.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I think thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That will take us into a second ordinance tonight, and this is authorizing full faith and credit bonds for multiple purposes. And Marcia, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. The ordinance before you tonight authorizes issuance of full faith and credit bonds for multiple purposes. Over the course of the last several months, we've been considering two different opportunities we have where it would make sense for the city to issue debt. The first opportunity was an urban renewal project that we've been talking about for quite some time, and that's the street improvements on Alpine Avenue. And over the last several months, we've discussed a number of options for how we might finance that project. Working with our financial advisor, Q1 Win, we have determined that the best option for funding that project is to execute a bank loan or bank placement. And we would be using urban renewal tax increment revenues to make debt service payments on the loan. The cost of the Alpine Avenue street project is approximately $2.2 million. The second opportunity relates to a liability that the city has with PERS. When the city joined the state and local government rate pool, a liability was calculated that belonged to the city, and it was not absorbed by the pool. So the opportunity here is to issue debt at approximately 3%, and which compares to the 7.5% that PERS is currently charging us. So we actually, and the transition liability, the amount for the transition liability is about $3.6 million. We know that issuing debt for both the Alpine Avenue project and the PERS liability at the same time will reduce issuance costs. And we actually had a conference call with our financial advisor this afternoon and reviewed several proposals that we've had from a number of banks who would like to do business with the city. And so the loan for the urban renewal project is actually tax exempt because it is a urban renewal construction project. And the rate for 15-year repayment on that loan is 2.73%. The loan for the PERS liability is taxable because it is not a capital project. And so the rate on that proposal,
It's the other way around.
I got it
You got it
backwards. I got it backwards. Excuse me. The urban renewal rate was 2.04, and the PERS rate is 2.73. And of course, the PERS rate is higher at 2.73 because it is taxable, and the urban renewal is tax exempt. And I would say that our financial advisor was very pleased with those rates when we talked to her this afternoon. So the staff recommends tonight that the adoption of Ordinance 5011 authorizing issuance of debt for the purpose of financing the Alpine Avenue Street Improvement Project and to pay off the city's PERS liability. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any discussions? Let's start with you, Larry.
So this is the $925,000 saving. That's over a 10-year period. Is that correct? Am I
Correct.
understanding right? Okay. Thank you.
Let's move down to you, Alan. Questions, comments?
Just a comment. This is a fantastic street that's going in. If anybody's ever stopped down at the Community Development Center, they'd see a replica of the street. I think it's called the Festival Street, right? At the time of designation. It's going to be wonderful. My only comment is, and this gets off track a little bit, is that our jewel of 3rd Street has gone undone. And there is a list a mile long of things we can do downtown that we've not created any kind of funding mechanism to take care of it other than create an urban renewal district, of which Alpine Street is involved in. So I would like to see us kind of think about that and bring it to the forefront that we have a jewel of 3rd Street that's been surviving for 100 years, and now we get to go in and spend all this money on Alpine Street and make it beautiful, and nothing is being done to 3rd Street. And we did a plan 10 years ago, probably, of improvements to 3rd Street, and we paid good money for it, and we haven't done anything. other than talk about it and say we're going to try and do something in the future, but there it sits, and we've got a lot of problems downtown. So I would like to see us focus in on that and see if we can't raise it up a notch downtown, or a notch or two. and
I
take
think that's a
advantage.
good discussion for
Yeah.
goal setting, because I can honestly say I've been into 2 or 3 small towns last month where we were the leader as far as streetscapes and everything in the downtown areas. Our downtown area is getting old, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of small cities that are really passing us by. And so I agree with you 100%, Alan, which is just a matter of how it's done, so. Okay, thank you, Alan. Let's turn over to Kevin. I'm going to go to Kelly last as a member of our audit committee. None? Okay, Kelly, you have anything to add?
No, I think this is a brilliant proposal that'll save us quite a bit of money, and more power to Marcia.
Yeah, good job, Martha. Well, then, if that's the case, what I'll do, and there's no more discussion, what I'll ask Walt to do is read the ordinance by title only, please.
Ordinance number 5011, an ordinance of the City of McMinnville authorizing full faith and credit bonds for multiple purposes.
Okay, second reading, Walt.
Ordinance number 5011, an ordinance of the City of McMinnville authorizing full faith and credit bonds for multiple purposes.
Thank you very much, Walt. Rose, if you can pull the council again, pulling the council president last.
Counselor Menke?
Aye.
Counselor Rudin?
Aye.
Counselor Yoder?
Aye.
And Council President Jeffries?
Aye.
Let it show that ordinance 5011 passed the council unanimously of all members present tonight. So, Marcia, again, thank you very much for working on that and putting it together. It's really nice to see we'll have the opportunity to save some money, and that will take us into resolutions tonight. We have resolution, we've already gone over resolution 2016, 68, and 69 off of our consent agenda. That'll move us to resolution 2016-70, and that's the approving the resolution for payoff and public employee retirement system PERS transition liability. So, Marcia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution amends the budget to allow us to take the loan proceeds that we'll be receiving from the bank and paying it off to PERS. So the memo here, the resolution goes through and discusses the way that the city and Water and Light staff was able to come up with an allocation of the transition liability, which I think was very fair and a reasonable way to do that. And so, again, this resolution just amends the budget, allowing us to receive the revenue, the loan proceeds, and then to record the debt service expense to pay off the liability. And also, I would mention that the Water and Light Board of Commissioners passed a very similar resolution on September 20th.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Marcia. We have any discussion around the table? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Menke. Do I have a second? Second by Councilor Rudin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have a question again.
And all those opposed, you're going to have to wait. We're in the middle of a process. Any opposed? Okay, let it show that Resolution 2016-70, approving resolution of payroll of public employees retirement system PERS transaction liability has been approved. I'll give you one question, short question.
Last one, I promise. All right. Are there, on the consent agenda, are there times, I need to know when there's times that the public can speak, besides at the beginning?
If it's an issue that we elect would be in that particular issue, yes, we can call people forward. We're not required to call people forward. It's more of a courtesy of those items if it's on the agenda, but we're not required, and I think Walt will back me up, we're not required to allow the
Is that
arguments.
correct?
But we generally do.
It's encouraged, obviously. Well, I would say that the vote is not by the citizens, but if there's no general reason to speak, or if there's no reason, if I was at these minutes or at these meetings with the discussion, that if there was any new amendment that hadn't been passed, that I would bring it forward to you guys, and I would be able to do that. But obviously, it's not required, is what you're telling me.
It's not required, but I say again, for the courtesy of the citizens, if it's something that we feel the time allows, then we will, just like tonight. We
Oh,
will
I wouldn't want to waste your time.
Yeah, we will call you up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Okay, that will take us to Resolution 2016-71, appointing members to the McMinnville Community for Public Arts. Martha.
Thank you, Mayor. And now, since ordinance, you now have a McMinnville Community Committee for Public Art. We need to have members on that committee, so the staff is recommending that we utilize the current membership of the former McMinnville Downtown Association Committee for Public Art and make them members into our new organization, with the addition of 2 new members being represented by a combination of board members that can be pulled from the Downtown Association Board, the Downtown Association Design Committee, and Visit McMinnville. For that particular 2 individuals that we recommend coming from that group would be our very own Jenny Berg, who actually sits on the MDA board itself, and then Rob Stevenson, who is the chair of the MDA Design Committee. As for the at-large positions that will be coming to the new committee, there's Edwina Castle, Mitch Horning, Stu Jacobson, Sharon Morgan, and of course, the esteemed Steve Rupp.
Okay, thank you, Martha. So we've had some names put in front of us to serve on the members of the McMinnville Community for Public Arts. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2016-71. Alan, you have a question? I didn't look down there.
A motion.
Did I say that?
He said so moved.
Oh, you said, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say it. So we have a motion by Alan,
Yeah.
heard my ear. Do I have a second?
You did.
Second by Counselor Yoder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, let it show that it passed the council unanimously. Okay, that'll take us to another resolution. That's Resolution 2016-72, adopting standards and policies for the McMinnville Community for Public Arts. Martha, we'll give that one back to you again.
And this is the last and final, because now that you have a committee and members, now you need rules for them to operate by. And so this will set out the policies and procedures to maintain our current collection and our future collections as a cultural, recreational, and educational resource for the citizens of McMinnville.
Okay, thank you. So that being said, do we have any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion. So moved by Counselor Yoder, second by Counselor Mankey. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, let it show that the motion passed unanimously. So that takes us to the actual formal part of our agenda. This is where we get into advice and information items. I do know that we do have a short urban renewal meeting with one resolution on it tonight. What I'd like to do at this time is we'll bypass the actual counselors' input and the staff reports for tonight. And of course, Walt, it's great to have you sitting here again next to us. And Martha, do you have anything?
No, except I just feel smarter.
Yeah, okay. How about the council? Do you have anything? None. Okay, I have one thing, and I'd like to go over tonight. This may come as a shock to some of you. It may not come as a shock to others. And this is dated September 27, 2016, and it's addressed to the McMinnville City Council, McMinnville City Manager, and the McMinnville City Attorney, and you're acting on his behalf. Okay. And this is from myself, Richard L. Rick Olson, Mayor. Over the past 40 years, I have been privileged and feel honored to have been part of the elected governmental body that has provided leadership to the citizens of McMinnville. Over the years, I have been proud to serve with many other elected officials, management team members, staff, and partners in ensuring that the citizens of McMinnville have and continue to have an active role and participation in city government. I have served in my 40 years as a volunteer EMT with the McMinnville Fire Department, a member and chair of the City Budget, a member and chair of the McMinnville Planning Commission, a member and chair of a representative of the 2 different council wards, Ward 2 and Ward 1, to the City of McMinnville, ex officio chairman of the McMinnville's Water and Light Commission, and now almost 8 years as mayor. And in those 8 years, I have seen many exciting projects that were either started, completed, or currently in work. As you may be aware, during the May 2016 primary election, I was elected to the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners, and since that time, I have realized that it is and will continue for the next 3 months to consume a large amount of dedicated time and effort to become more familiar with the governmental structure, current operations, challenges, and many issues that impact the citizens and businesses of Yamhill County. This is no small task and will consume a large amount of time attending Board of Commissioners meetings, meeting with the other commissioners, working with the Yamhill County management team, meeting with staff to understand operational needs, and becoming familiar with all the Yamhill County ordinances and budgets. As I move on to Yamhill County, I do not want my effort in that area to be a distraction from the responsibilities as mayor. With the amount of time it will take, I feel it is critical to the citizens of McMinnville and management team, city staff, and city partners that I step aside from my mayoral position and responsibilities so I can concentrate on my upcoming responsibilities to the citizens of Yamhill County, especially those that are included in McMinnville. That being said, it is my intention to leave office as mayor on October 1st to allow the current council and staff the time needed to prepare for a newly elected mayor and councilors and continue to move the city in the direction set forth by myself, the previous mayors, and all the current and previous councilors. At this time, I'd like to thank each councilor and all the staff and allow me to be part of such a great organization for the past 40 years. I truly appreciate and support the friendship that you have all shown me in the past, and especially over the 8 years as mayor. Sincerely, Richard L. Rick Olson, Mayor. So my last day will be Friday at 5 o'clock. I'm turning it over to the city council, so. Okay, now we can, do we have anything else to come in front of the regular council? If not, I will adjourn the regular council meeting and we will move over to the Urban Renewal Agency meeting. So it is now 8:51 and I will call to order the September 27th, 2016 meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency meeting. We have one issue tonight, and that's Resolution 2006-6. That's authorizing indebtedness to capital projects described in the McMinnville Urban Renewal Plan. So who's going to report on this one? I didn't have to bring that part of my script.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that you, Martha?
I believe Marcia's got it.
Marcia, you got that one.
She is on a roll.
This is really an extension of the previous ordinance that we talked about. As we talked about the financing with our Q1 and looking at our different options, it was very apparent that the best option was for the city to borrow $2.2 million for this project. It was the idea of then the city loaning that money to the Urban Renewal Agency. It was definitely a good option for us because the Urban Renewal Agency is very new and does not have a very long track record to this point as far as our tax collections. So the agreement with the Urban Renewal was reviewed by our bond counsel, and to make sure that the process to maintain the tax exempt status of the loan was appropriately handled. So this resolution that is in front of you is authorizing the agency to enter into a loan with the city for the $2.2 million for the Alpine Avenue project.
Thank you, Marcia. So Marcia's giving background. Do we have any discussion on the item? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve resolution number 2016-6 of the Urban Renewal Agency.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Rudin. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Second by Councilor Yoder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, let it show that resolution 2016-6 of the Urban Renewal Agency has been approved. That takes us in, do we have any other business to come in front of the Urban Renewal Agency? Kevin?
So are you going to stay on as Urban Renewal Chair? I'm just kidding.
Did you read that? I said I'm not going to have time to do any of that stuff.
Being that this is going to be your last council meeting, Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank you for your leadership and
Thank you.
and really your counsel to me it was when you were elected that I came in to fill your position on the council, and you've been a great mentor to me on the council, and I just really appreciate your commitment to the city, and I hope to someday kind of have that same long history in this city. And I just really appreciate all that you've done, and you're really someone to look up to and to emulate, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Kevin. So one of the things I do hope to bring is, I can't say you're not getting rid of me that early, because I do hope to bring some very good, hopefully, working relationships between the county and the city. But I'm not going to stay out of the city altogether. I'm applying to become a firefighter. Yeah, perfect. PIO, though. I won't take anything less than the PIO. So anyway, that being said, that meeting is adjourned and everybody else is adjourned. I'll sign those.
It's been my honor.